Good evening and welcome to BATV News. I'm Kalila Reynolds. President of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, PSOJ, Howard Mitchell, says the resignation of Police Commissioner George Quayler doesn't come as a surprise. He says the commissioner clearly lost the confidence of the security minister and was unable to effectively carry out his duties as head of the police force. He says closer attention must be paid to how police commissioners are chosen. Andrew Laidley reports.
Howard Mitchell says Police Commissioner George Quayler's reign as head of the police force came to a natural end. He says this was particularly evident through demonstrations by National Security Minister Robert Montague that he had lost confidence in the commissioner's ability to effectively do his job.
I think that it had to happen. It was obvious that Mr. Quayler was not in a position to conduct the business of the police efficiently, for whatever reason, which I won't comment on, and that he did not have the confidence of his minister.
The PSOJ president questioned the process by which police commissioners are appointed. He argues that the turnover rate for the role of commissioner is becoming high, which he says is concerning.
It also focuses on the issue of why it is that we have had so many commissioners in such a relatively short period of time. And it would beg the question of the selection process and whether the selection process is adequate and appropriate.
He says the Police Services Commission should consider appointing members of the diaspora who possess the skills to get the job done well.
I feel that the Police Services Commission perhaps needs to be a little more forthcoming in terms of what they're looking for, and that the position perhaps should be thrown open to members of the diaspora who have the requisite experience and connection with Jamaica.
For BATV News, I'm Andrew Laidley.
Meanwhile, the PSOJ says it supports a call to separate the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency MOCA from the Jamaica Constabulary Force. The call was made recently by head of the Police Civilian Oversight Committee, POCA, Professor Anthony Harriott. The PSOJ says Professor Harriott's argument is based on the correct observation that there's too much structurally wrong with the JCF and a lack of accountability and effective management within the organization. They're encouraging similar calls to be made by all well-thinking stakeholders in the society, especially those in positions of authority and responsibility. And Royal Caribbean Cruises is reportedly endorsing the state of emergency in Jamaica's tourism capital, St. James. According to a statement from the Ministry of Tourism, Royal Caribbean says it understands the nature of the actions taken by the government of Jamaica. The statement says they support the moves being made by Jamaica as there's a need for this kind of action. The comments were reportedly made during a meeting in Miami on Friday between Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett and Royal Caribbean executives. According to the ministry, Minister Bartlett is in the U.S. to assure key stakeholders there, as well as the United Kingdom and Canada, that Jamaica is still a vibrant vacation choice, despite the state of public emergency in St. James. Meanwhile, Minister Bartlett says cruise officials are keen on deepening their relationships with Jamaica this year. He says he's confident the island's cruise industry will see great improvements this year based on positive feedback from cruise industry leadership and potential investors so far. He adds that Prime Minister Andrew Holness has been doing great work to expand activities for Falmouth in particular. He says the historic town will be in immaculate condition for 2020. The minister is also scheduled to travel to San Juan, Puerto Rico to attend the Caribbean Travel Marketplace, which is the largest tourism marketing event in the Caribbean. He's expected to return to the island on February 3. The Supreme Court has ruled in favor of Medical Associates Hospital in the long-running case with its dismissed CEO, Simone Haynes Khoury, and members of her family. Justice Brian Sykes dismissed the claim initiated by the Haynes Couries on behalf of a company they control, Community Medical Services Limited, CMSL. He granted the hospital and its chairman, Conrad George, summary judgment against CMSL and legal costs. He also refused CMSL permission to appeal the dismissal on the ground that there's no reasonable basis for appealing. The decision now brings the case completely to an end. A statement sent on behalf of medical associates over the weekend says the decision vindicates their actions to protect the interests of shareholders against the attempts by associates and family members of Mrs. Haynes Courie to take control of the hospital and put her back in charge. The board had dismissed Mrs. Courie as CEO and brought fraud proceedings against her to recover some $32 million following a forensic investigation into her stewardship of the hospital's business. The fraud case is scheduled for trial this March. And when we come back, we'll give you a look at Kingston Wharves' new logistics facility. This and more after the break. Welcome back. Private and public sector agencies recently came together to celebrate the opening of Kingston Wharves Limited's Total Logistics Facility. The facility is a warehouse and logistics hub for goods shipped to the island. Jamila Maitland reports.
The $20 million environmentally friendly Total Logistics Facility is one of Kingston Wharves' several investments in the Kingston Port Terminal. It's expected to reduce the time customers spend to collect their goods at the wharf, create more space to store goods and containers, as well as create new jobs for the youth. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says it's a much-needed improvement.
And so we support and endorse all the investment activities that will not just bring growth, but create employment. So I'm happy to hear that Kingston Wharves will be creating many more jobs. I gather that you could possibly employ another 100 Jamaicans.
Meanwhile, Kingston Wharves CEO Grantley Stevenson announced major logistics plan for the entire Newport area.
The tenacity and drive that have delivered 73 years of achievement is the same force that will harness as we journey towards the goal of becoming the world's leading multi-user, multi-purpose port operator and the best terminal for integrated logistics in the Caribbean.
In the meantime, President and the CEO of the Port Authority, Professor Gordon Shirley, says he supports the KWL in transforming the Kingston Port. Last year, the Port Authority collected $188 billion in revenues from businesses. Professor Shirley says the facility is much needed for Jamaica to compete on an international scale.
There is no doubt in my mind that the year 2018-2019 is going to be a substantial year when the Port of Kingston larger it reestablishes itself as a premier, as one of the dominant transshipment terminals in the entire Caribbean region.
For BATV News, I'm Jamila Maitland.
U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson will travel to Kingston, Jamaica on February 7. Secretary Tillerson's visit is part of a regional trip in which he's to visit 5 countries in 7 days. His final stop will be in Jamaica. The U.S. Secretary of State is scheduled to meet with Prime Minister Andrew Holness and Foreign Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith to discuss bilateral and regional security, energy efforts, and Jamaica's successful economic reform. Before arriving in Jamaica, Secretary Tillerson will travel to Austin, Texas, and then to Mexico City, Bariloche and Buenos Aires in Argentina, Lima, Peru, and Bogota, Colombia. Throughout his travel, the Secretary will engage with regional partners to promote a safe, prosperous, energy secure, and a democratic hemisphere. Secretary Tillerson will also advocate for increased regional attention to the crisis in Venezuela. Flow's Managing Director Stephen Price is calling for better laws and policies to govern cybersecurity in Jamaica. He says stricter policies are crucial, especially in the face of increasing cybersecurity threats. He says cybersecurity legislation similar to the United States Sarbanes-Oxley Act, which seeks to protect investors from fraud, would encourage businesses to invest in robust cybersecurity practices. Mr. Price says the most commonly used passwords in Jamaica last year were too simple. He says they included the numbers 1 through 6, and in several cases, the word password was used. He says this is an indication that Jamaicans aren't taking cybercrime seriously. He's urging businesses to invest in robust cybersecurity practices, which will safeguard important data and prevent downloads of unauthorized software. Meanwhile, Flow says its aim is to establish Jamaica as the center of innovation for cyber awareness and prevention in the Caribbean. The telecommunications company is also partnering with young computer scientists from the University of Technology and UWI to review algorithms to strengthen cybersecurity on the island. Starting February 1, residents of Liberty Estates in St. Mary will be charged to use the sewerage facility. They will now have to pay just over $3,100 a month, the rate approved by the Office of Utilities Regulation, OUR, for sewage services provided by Landmark Development Limited, LDL. Connection fees will range between $6,000 and $15,000 and $10,000 for reconnection. The OUR says it usually has a no objection policy to rates initiated by small water and sewage services, once they do not exceed those of the National Water Commission, NWC. But in this case, the OUR says LDL's rates were up to 22% higher than industry rates. LDL now has 3 months to develop a policy that outlines the efficient management of the sewer systems and a customer charter. They also have 6 months to develop a policy for disconnecting a sewer main, replacing mains, and restoring roads. And when we come back, a car smuggling ring costing Guyana millions, and you'd never guess who's allegedly behind it. This and more in regional and international news up next. Welcome back. Time now for regional and international news. Authorities in Guyana say the country is losing millions of dollars each year to a large vehicle smuggling ring allegedly facilitated by corrupt public sector workers. More in this report.
For years, taxpayers would purchase vehicles in the neighboring country, install false license plates, and bring them to Guyana and evade the payment of at least $1 million in taxes. Commissioner General of the Guyana Revenue Authority, Godfrey Stacia, told reporters at a news conference on Thursday that the practice remains rampant and that the GRA staff are even largely involved.
We know, for example, that there are over, close to 2,000 vehicles that came from Suriname that has not gone back. Right. We have found instances where our own staff were involved in that activity.
The tax chief said there is an estimated 280,000 vehicles registered in the country, and yet there are a large number of vehicles that traverse the roadways with false license plates.
Look, the other morning I see a DPL 5, a 101. Nowhere does the U.S. Embassy has 101 vehicles, right? 3 weeks ago, we found a false one in front of the Chinese embassy with a Chinese number plate. So we need to understand the society in which we live and the lengths that people go just to defeat the tax.
To address this issue, the Commissioner General said the GRA, in collaboration with other agencies, will be moving to implement a centralized system to issue license plates with security features.
We are going to get that done this year. We are now in discussion to get that done. It was put on the back burner because we were trying to decide whether it should fall under the Ministry of what? Public Security or on the GRA. I told them I don't care who does it once it's done.
Last year, prototypes of modern vehicle registration plates with security features were submitted by a Miami-based company called Eurosign to the Guyana government for consideration. The recommended license plates will be embedded with security features that stymie the use of falsely registered plates and enable easier tracking and identification. In addition to curbing tax evasion, the initiative can assist in the Guyana Police Force's crime-fighting strategy. When the idea was first floated by the incumbent administration in 2015, several roadside vendors had objected to the initiative as the new system would put them out of business. Davina Samaru, Newsroom.
It's been described as a bubble about to burst, a way of laundering money, and also as the future of finance. At the World Economic Forum's meeting in Switzerland last week, the spotlight fell on digital currencies like Bitcoin and the technology on which they're built. Al Jazeera's Jonah Hall reports from Davos.
There was something different about the Davos promenade this year. Cryptocurrencies had arrived. They became household names in 2017. Now believers say the underlying technology, blockchain, is the future.
The usual suspects are, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Ripple, and so forth.
There is fraud, there are scams, but I don't think that that's the majority of it.
You're going to build a blockchain across Africa?
Right, exactly.
What does that actually mean? One person who tried to explain it was Jamie Smith, former Obama deputy press secretary turned blockchain promoter.
If you think about it, it's like a train track between you and me. The blockchain are the rails, and then the car on top of it is just a digital token, and so I'm attaching any asset to it. Anything, I'm sending it to you. And I do that on that car, and that car is a digital token, and the most famous one's called a Bitcoin.
That clears that up then.
This week it's felt like the only buzz in town is Donald Trump. But not behind these doors. The Trump name is barely mentioned because here they're partying like it's 1994.
We are in that stage, 1994, beginning of internet. Yes, let's go get them. And the fervor that's happening in the world today, the market today, is in this room, the buzzing that there's a new thing.
The internet is the internet of information. Now we have the internet of money. We have the internet of value. And we can do the internet of law. We can do smart contracts. We can do artificial intelligence. So through this societal internet of value exchange, it's going to be bigger than the internet.
Blockchain enthusiasts tend not to underplay its potential.
We are creating a new financial infrastructure for the world. We're going to see pretty much everything that we do as humans be put on this ledger so that we can prove that we're being trustworthy.
But there are those willing to sound a note of caution.
Now it's becoming very, very speculative. So just kind of take a step back and kind of read up on it, do your due diligence before putting your money in.
Blockchain technology's 1994 moment has already seen currencies like Bitcoin rise in value by 1,800% in 12 months. The growth potential of blockchain is such that round here they call Bitcoin yesterday's news. Jonah Hull, Al Jazeera, Davos.
Ingvar Kamprad, founder of the Swedish furniture store IKEA, has died at the age of 91. He established IKEA in 1943 and turned it into a global empire famous for its affordable flat-pack furniture. Al Jazeera's Peter Sharp takes a look back at his life.
His work ethic was simple: to create a better everyday life for the many people. Ingvar Kamprad founded IKEA when he was just 17. That was 74 years ago, and sticking strictly to those principles, he turned a small-scale mail-order business into a global furniture empire. Ingmar was a little boy in a hurry. He started selling matches to neighbours at the age of 5.
Some kids are interested from the beginning to be an entrepreneur, and Ingmar was one of them. And actually, when he was a little boy, he started to sell postcards to his grandmother and to the neighbors, and eventually he loaned a bike and he started to fish, and he was selling the fish around. And the little box that you could find in our museum is one thing of this. So the little fish box is actually the first little box that he has his money in.
Forget the fish box. His company now pulls in a staggering $62 billion a year. And this is where it all began, in Sweden, where his first shop opened in 1958. Its simplicity remains at the heart of the enterprise. The revolutionary flat pack found a following around the world, even as far as Western Yemen. But it didn't escape scrutiny over its taxes. Last year, the European Commission announced it had launched an investigation into the company's tax affairs in the Netherlands. IKEA announced Ingvar Kamprad died on Saturday, aged 91. He'd stepped down from the board in 2013 at the age of 87. Peter Sharp, Al Jazeera.
Stay with us. Talking Stocks comes up next. Welcome back. Time now for Talking Stocks. 48 stocks traded today, of which 20 advanced, 19 declined, and 9 traded firm. The main JSE index declined by 33 points to close at 284,426 points. The junior index advanced by 36 points to close at 2,800 points. 7.5 million units traded, valued at almost $49 million on the Jamaican dollar market. And on the US dollar market, over 6,000 units traded, valued at over $1,000 US. Lasco distributors with over 3 million units changing hands accounted for 44% of market volume. Victoria Mutual Investment was second with over 1 million units trading. Wisynco Group accounted for 900,281 units, amounting to 11% of market volume crossing the floor. G West Corporation was the top advancer, up 42 cents to close at $3.20, followed by Caribbean Cream, up 54 cents to close at $5.56, and KLE Group, up 22 cents to close at $2.47. The main decliners were Main Event Entertainment Group, down 70 cents to close at $5.50, followed by Portland JSX, losing 88 cents to close at $10.12, and Jetcon Corporation, down 18 cents to close at $4.32. In foreign exchange trading, the Jamaican dollar lost ground on the US and Canadian dollars today, but gained on the British pound. The US dollar gained 9 cents on the Jamaican dollar, ending the day at $125.20. The Canadian sold for 77 cents more, closing the day at $101.55, while the British pound went for $175.34, losing $2.22 to the Jamaican dollar. And that's the news, but before we go, a recap of our top story. President of the PSOJ, Howard Mitchell, says he's not surprised by the resignation of Police Commissioner George Quaylo, but he says the high turnover rate for the post is concerning. Thanks for watching. For more content, visit our website at batvja.com. I'm Kalila Reynolds. Pleasant viewing.